Welcome to Wrestling Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrestling Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and Attitude ruled. My name is Pennsylvania Joe, and I'm here with the editor-in-chief, Ryan.
What the hell? You don't sound like Bartlett.
We are missing our co-host tonight. He's in hiding because somebody was threatening to choppy his pee-pee.
Yeah.
When someone says that, they usually follow up on it. So he decided to take a week off. Hopefully we'll have him back next week. He's missing out on quite a eventful show here.
Hopefully he's safe, though, wherever he's at.
Yes. And on today's show, we are going to be talking about the episode of Monday Night Raw that aired on August 3rd, 1998. This episode took place in San Diego, California, and we have Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler on commentary. Ryan, do you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Ooh, I do. And it's not that bar of soap that Bartlett had for Christmas.
No, it's not. And we are kicking off our show with The Rock's music. Another thing to note is that Sunday Night Heat, the first episode, aired the night before this episode of Raw. So August 2nd, 1998 was the first episode of Sunday Night Heat. And Jerry Lawler tells us that on Sunday Night Heat, The Rock and Owen Hart earned a tag team title match tonight by winning a match on Sunday Night Heat. So that's pretty good info.
I guess we also learned later that Austin had a match as well. For that first Sunday Night Heat, they were really pulling out all the stops. But as we know, as time goes on, Sunday Night Heat is the C squad. It's not even the B squad. So.
Yeah. I do remember back in the day, Sunday Night Heat, it was must-see TV on the nights of the pay-per-views. It was like a pre-show type of thing.
Right. Yeah, it made sense to watch then, for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense for us to watch it, so we're not going to be watching Sunday Night Heat for this podcast, but as we learned through this episode, they do give us some pretty good highlights from the show, not necessarily actual video highlights, but commentary does a really good job of telling us what happened last night that is relevant to this episode.
Yeah, which is a good thing. Hopefully they continue to do that moving forward, so if we miss anything too important, they'll fill us in on it.
Right. So, like I said, The Rock's music hits, and he makes his way to the ring with the rest of the nation. The Rock cuts a promo on Steve Austin and The Undertaker and asks them to bring their candy asses out here now, and we'll have this match right now. Sgt Slaughter makes his way to the ring, and Ryan, do you remember that Sgt Slaughter is the commissioner of the WWF?
I do now.
We are balls deep in the Mr. McMahon character, so Sgt Slaughter doesn't have much impact here. The Rock uses every single one of his catchphrases on Sgt Slaughter. Jabroni, know your role, candy ass, etc.
Yeah, he was busting them all out.
And eventually the glass breaks, and here come the tag team champions. Stone Cold Steve Austin, followed by The Undertaker, who is carrying both of the tag team titles. Austin jumps in and gets attacked, but The Undertaker is too distracted by Kane at the top of the ramp.
Cahoots!
Undertaker then gets attacked by Mankind, and those two disappear. Austin manages to fight off The Rock and Owen Hart, and he grabs a chair. And I always love it when JR refers to the chair as the equalizer. That's always a great piece of commentary there.
Yeah, like a revolver.
Yes. Great movies, by the way. The Equalizer with Denzel Washington. Those are fantastic.
Did you know that movie by Denzel Washington was a remake of an 80s television show?
Yeah, and I've never seen the show.
It was an old British guy was the Equalizer.
Yeah.
I used to watch that a little bit when I was young. I never saw the movies, though. I think because I was like, well, I was used to the show. I was worried the movies weren't going to live up. But
yeah, they're good. But yeah, JR points out that Austin grabs the Equalizer. And Ryan, this segment was a nice surprise because we obviously did not watch Sunday Night Heat. What stood out to me was I thought this was a nice opportunity just to get a little taste of that Steve Austin and The Rock rivalry. I know that we had a little bit of action between those two a few months back when they had their Intercontinental title feud going, but I thought this was a really nice little taste of that rivalry, and I really loved it when The Rock ducked out of the stunner and left the ring, because that just leaves us wanting more. Austin did not get to stun every single member of the nation. The Rock was able to escape, and that's what I really enjoyed about this opening segment. What were your thoughts?
I thought it was a great opening segment. This gets people's attention right out of the hole. And if you're just tuning in and as you said, didn't watch Heat, you now have a reason to stick around till the end, because you've got a bunch of superstars here again to finish out the show like we did last week. So they're really giving us some red meat to keep us hungry for the whole episode. So that was really cool. And you brought up how The Rock and Stone Cold already had a small feud a while ago over the IC belt. But I think what's really cool here is, so when that happened, Stone Cold was on his rise. He wasn't quite where he is at now.
Yeah.
And The Rock was not even close to rising. Everyone was still booing him for real, like not a heel booing, but like, we don't care about you, boo. You
Rocky
know?
sucks. Yeah.
Right. Where now Stone Cold, he's at his peak right now.
Yeah.
He blows the roof off when he comes out, but Rocky's on his way there. So it was just kind of like watching this horse race between the two as they both get bigger and bigger as the months went on. So it's cool that we're leading up to yet another feud between them.
Yeah, we know what the future holds, and just to get a little taste of it was nice to see, especially 1 week after Dr. Death's career was completely ruined, since he was going to be the next guy to go against Austin.
Yeah, we need someone.
Speaking of Dr. Death's career being ended, we then get a shot of Scorpio and the Godfather shadow boxing, preparing for their brawl for all fight tonight. And that will take us to our first match of the night.
Bro, this is a brawl for all. This is a shoot, not wrestling. Bro, it's boom, 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 boom. Just look at it logically. Does it make any sense?
The Godfather.
Why does he use so many booms?
Well, you got to drive home the point. The Godfather defeats Scorpio in a 3-round brawl for all match. What better way to start the show? If you love wrestling, what better way to start off this episode? JR tells us that the Godfather is back in this tournament because Dan Severn has withdrawn. That's news. What a mess this fucking tournament is.
Probably after Dr. Death had his career ended, he was like, well, I don't need that to happen to me.
Yeah, well, we cut to Dan Severn in the back where JR asks Dan why he withdrew, and Dan gives us a riveting promo, basically saying that he has nothing to prove. That's it. Godfather, of course, has 3 hoes with him when he makes his way to the ring. One of them really put the A in TNA.
Oh, yeah.
And the Godfather officially offers his first proposal to his opponent, telling Scorpio that he can either fight and get his ass beat, or he can go home with 3 hoes. And Scorpio is a dumbass and chooses the fight. JR informs us that Dr. Death suffered a torn hamstring, a dislocated knee, and a dislocated jaw. And was in the hospital all night after his match last week against Bart Gunn.
In other words, got the shit kicked out.
Yes. And the winner of this match will face Bart Gunn in the semifinals. To me, this was a huge mismatch in size. The Godfather is he's just so much bigger than Scorpio, has such a longer reach than Scorpio. Godfather gets some good shots in the first round. The hoes certainly loved it and were cheering him on at ringside. Round 2, Godfather lands some heavy body shots. JR tells us that Steve Blackman hurt his knee, so Mark Marrow may need to take his place in the tournament. What a disaster.
How many people have been brought back because of injuries in this tournament? That will be like 4, right?
Yes, at least. Just unbelievable.
Well, because Godfather is someone who got brought back.
Yep.
I feel like Scorpio was too, but they didn't say that.
Well, he said Mark Marrow might take Steve Blackman's place. Didn't Mark Marrow already take someone's place again? I thought it was him. Maybe it was somebody else, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, like you said, so many people coming in and out.
It's such a mess, and it explains why they never really showed a bracket for this thing.
Right. It would be a spider web.
Yeah. And anyway, The Godfather, he won this pretty handily, but there was really nothing shocking in this match to me, unlike last week. And there was yet again another boring chant from the crowd. Ryan, what did you think?
I think I was chanting right along with this crowd because it was fucking boring. Big mismatch, as you pointed out. The Godfather has Scorpio by about a foot and about 100 pounds. It was not really much of a matchup here. But at the beginning, when we go to Dan Severn for his explanation as to why he's not here, I don't know the last time I heard a promo this fucking bad. It might have been when we did WCCW with Boogaloo Shaft. Might have been the last time we had a promo this shitty. But way to go, Dan. The match, though, as you said, completely forgettable, except for the hose. The hose were probably the best part, just like last week you said the hose were the best part of a match.
Yeah.
That's probably the case here. And that one with the short hair, in between the rounds, she was bending over, leaning into the ropes, and the camera guy got right up in her ass. I think he had to wipe that lens. Yeah.
Yeah, short hair and short shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that takes us to Michael Cole with the New Age Outlaws. The New Age Outlaws are going to be taking on Kane and Mankind tonight. They want revenge for Kane and Mankind taking their belts a few weeks ago. And that takes us to our next match. Kane and Mankind defeat the New Age Outlaws in 5 minutes and 18 seconds. It still gives me chills to this day to hear 20,000 strong screaming "suck it" in unison. I just...
Makes me feel like I'm in 6th grade all over again.
Yes. It just gives me chills every time. I love it. And this match starts out with the Outlaws attacking Mankind during Kane's pyro intro, which I thought was extremely smart on their part. While Kane was entering the ring, they were attacking Mankind on the outside. JR tells us that Triple H and X Pac will face each other for a chance to face the Intercontinental Champion at SummerSlam. That's going to happen later tonight. There were 2 chair shots to the dome outside the ring during this match, and JR just freaked out. I believe it was Road Dogg and Mankind that took the chair shots, if I remember correctly, and at least Mankind has that mask to protect him. Road Dogg just took an unprotected shot right to the dome. And yeah, JR is just like, look at the bodies. It's like a demolition derby with human anatomy. Yeah, he was going nuts there, and that was fun to hear. Kane pins the Road Dogg for the victory, even though the Road Dogg was not the legal man, but Earl Hebner sucks, ladies and gentlemen.
Fucking wiener.
So, Ryan, I thought these 2 teams worked pretty well together, but I just don't know that I love Kane and Mankind as a tag team right now. If they're going to be a team, I feel like they should just be more dangerous and intimidating and not winning matches by pinning the illegal man. I don't know if this tag team has just run its course for me already, or I just don't like how their matches are worked, but I feel like they should be more dangerous. What are your thoughts?
I think the exact same thing with both Kane and Mankind and Undertaker and Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Like, those are 2 tag teams that should pretty much kick anyone else's ass. These 4 people involved, you have probably your 2 biggest guys. Then you have Stone Cold, who's your biggest star, who always wins. And Mankind, who can go through a car wreck and still kick out of a 3 count. Like, yeah, Kane and Mankind should be ripping the New Age Outlaws apart, which is why they probably shouldn't be in the tag team discussion, because it just ruins it. But that being said, the match itself was pretty good. It was an entertaining match. I liked Kane. He landed that double suplex on the Outlaws. I always think that's cool when a monster pulls off the double suplex. It's impressive.
Yep.
And then later on, they give him a double suplex where they both have to lift him up to give him a suplex. So both both of those shots were pretty cool and good to see, but I also agree that it's a shitty ending. Like, you have Earl Hebner, the Wiener, Captain Wiener here, and he doesn't realize that he's allowing the wrong guy to be pinned. We're not talking about the Nazi fuck brothers that are twins here. Like that, you could write into the story that it's understandable why a ref wouldn't notice that, but Road Dogg and Mr. Ass, they don't really look like each other at all. So, a shitty ending, but I thought, with everything being said, still a pretty good match.
Yeah, good point on the suplexes on both sides, too, because that's part of that in-ring psychology that works so well. Well, that takes us to a recap of Hawk from LOD 2000 being wasted last week during their match. And Hawk and Animal are in the back, and Hawk breaks kayfabe and addresses the fans and Titan Sports and a couple others and apologizes for his behavior from last week. So this was an interesting way to follow up already after just 1 week of Hawk being wasted at work. Ryan, what did you think of this interview?
It was interesting, especially if we go back to that time, watching it brand new. It was probably something that I never saw before as a kid. A wrestler out there talking about how he was inebriated and he's apologizing to everyone. So definitely bringing that realism to wrestling that they've been trying to do over the last 18 months. And this really drives it home.
Well, what's interesting too, and I don't know if it's a USA thing or not, but I don't know that they ever blatantly said that he was intoxicated or just not sober. I'm not sure they ever actually flat out said that, which also makes it a little interesting. But maybe that's part of the story. I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But that takes us to our next match. Hawk defeats Double J with Tennessee Lee in 2 minutes and 31 seconds. JR and the King tell us that Double J and Tennessee Lee got into a little verbal spat on Sunday Night Heat, and that worries me. I think that the inevitable is going to happen here, and we're gonna lose Tennessee Lee, but we'll enjoy him while he's here, I guess.
Bartlett will be thrilled.
He will, yeah. But speaking of Tennessee Lee, basically, this match, it's only 2.5 minutes. Double J gets pinned while waiting for Tennessee Lee to take his belt off. Messy match. I know that's what they were going for, but just a messy 2.5 minutes. Animal eventually comes down the ramp to congratulate Hawk, but Southern Justice jumps them from behind, and then Draws runs in to attack Double J and breaks things up. So, man, I don't know where this is going, but I don't like it. Ryan, what were your thoughts?
Right along those lines. I'm not sure where it's going, but I don't think it's going to be good. For Double J and Tennessee Lee, very sad, because I think, the writing is definitely on the wall. Tennessee Lee's days are numbered, and that is a damn shame.
Not good.
As far as the actual match goes, poor Double J. I mean, again, 2.5 minutes, he gets squashed here, and it's not even a finisher move. It was a very basic wrestling move that Hawk lands to put away Jeff Jarrett. So that's not looking good for him either. The whole Double J Tennessee Lee team seems to be not doing real great right now. Things are looking pretty bad for them, but things are looking pretty bad for us too if there's going to be a Southern Justice feud with LOD. But they did throw Draws coming out at the end there. No more explanation. We had Draws World last week, and now he's back helping out the LOD. So of course we know he's going to join the LOD, but I don't know where things are going, but shit.
It makes you wish that you had a Stride X pad and you could just wipe it all away.
Yeah. Yep.
And we get a Stride X commercial featuring Triple H, which was cool. Actually, I enjoyed that little commercial there.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Stride X, of course, being a sponsor for SummerSlam coming up. And we come back to a chorus of boos, and that can only mean one thing. Mr. McMahon is making his way to the ring. Vince tells us that the highway to hell intersects at SummerSlam, and I really like that line from Vince.
You mean the highway to hell?
And he seems to be enjoying the issues that Austin and The Undertaker are having with each other. Vince claims that last week when The Undertaker popped the top of that cold Steve Weiser, that The Undertaker knew Kane was on his way down to attack Austin. What a coincidence. As they're in cahoots.
How did The Undertaker know that Austin was going to toss him a beer? Just poking holes in McMahon's theory here.
Yeah. Vince asks The Undertaker to come down and explain himself. And he says, I don't have all night, damn it. And the glass breaks, and JR tells us that business is about to pick up. Stone Cold Steve Austin steals the mic from Vince and says he doesn't give a damn about conspiracy because he doesn't trust anybody. He says that The Undertaker looked thirsty, so he threw him a damn beer. It doesn't mean they're buddies. He cuts his promo and tosses Vince the mic. And while he's headed back, The Undertaker says, hey, I'm talking to you, boy, to Steve Austin. Tells Austin that Vince is trying to drive a wedge between them. Undertaker tells Austin to come take what is yours, and of course he's referring to those tag team titles that Steve Austin wants nothing to do with. But Austin comes in and takes the tag title, and he leaves. Vince looks pissed off, and The Undertaker says there's one more thing. He tells Austin that he's the safest SOB in the WWF, but when we get to SummerSlam, I'm going to take what is mine, the WWF World title. So we're getting a little bit of friendship here. I don't know if I like it, but Undertaker wants that title, so that's a good thing. I'm still not into it. I'm still just not into this Austin-Undertaker build-up for SummerSlam. They're two legends. They're two good wrestlers, but I'm just not into this story. Ryan, what are your thoughts?
I still agree with you. I'm not into it, but I felt like out of everything we've gotten so far, this has done the best job of getting me at least slightly involved in their story. Because I like that they're trying to put the whole tag team belt things aside. Like, okay, we're going to stop fucking around when we're in a match for the belts. We'll cooperate with each other, but come SummerSlam, we're going to let each other have it. I like that, but it's still not that compelling of a story. But this whole segment, I thought, worked for the most part. We got McMahon coming out with all the stooges. The crowd gets pissed off. He calls out Undertaker and Stone Cold. So just doing the typical shithead stuff that Vince McMahon does to get the crowd riled up.
Damn it.
No one does it better right now. There's no one out there that could get this crowd booing as loud as he can. So having him come out to do that's good. Another thing I did want to point out, you mentioned last week about seeing the snakeskin on the back of Austin's belt, and we got a shot of the front. This is definitely the smoking skull belt.
Yeah.
So they didn't make any talk of it. And what's odd is I even did a little research after seeing that and trying to see when did it debut. And online, a lot of people seem to say that it debuted on the premiere of SmackDown. And we're way before that right now.
I mean,
not way, but...
Yeah, I did see that, but then I saw July 27th, too, which was last week. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a Mandela effect thing. I feel like I remember them properly introducing that belt, but maybe it's going to happen later for whatever reason.
Well, that maybe what happens around SmackDown is there is official talk of the belt. Yeah. Where up until then you had to be a little hawk-eyed to see that it wasn't the original belt. Of course, we know to look for it now, but if we were back then, would be one of those things like in plain sight. You're not even thinking about it. Oh, that's just the heavyweight title. But it was definitely the smoking skull belt. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully we'll get an explanation on that soon. Mm-hmm. And we go to the back here, and The Rock and Owen Hart, they have a little backstage interview, basically just cut a promo on Steve Austin and The Undertaker. I think this was basically just thrown in there just to keep people tuned in to the episode here. We then go to another Stridex highlight here. This was highlights from the triple threat match last week between The Rock, Triple H, and X Pac. And that takes us to our next match. Triple H defeats X Pac in a number 1 contender match for the Intercontinental title in 5 minutes and 9 seconds. So this is interesting. Last week we had this triple threat match with these two who are in the same faction. I guess technically they're both baby faces. They went up against The Rock last week, and this week they're going against each other. They both enter the ring together with China, which Speaking of China, I have yet to see China wear anything that does not look very flattering on her. She's wearing a sort of wrestling singlet style bodysuit here, and just what a fine specimen she was.
Either she's doing a hell of a job or the costume people in the back are doing a great job.
Yeah, definitely. X-Pac has been taking some crazy bumps lately for someone who recently had neck injuries, which JR reminds us of too, and yeah, he's just taken some crazy bumps lately, and including this match. These guys are having a real match, which is weird. If you remember in the early days of DX, Shawn Michaels and Triple H were fucking around and screwing over the company and all that kind of stuff. But these guys are having an actual match. I'm not sure I understand this booking at all, to be honest. There's lots of back and forth. X-Pac is getting a lot of kicks in, which look very good. China trips up X-Pac in the corner, then gives him a forearm to the dome, which allows Triple H to hit the pedigree for the win. So, again, I'm just not sure I understand this booking at all unless you're going to split these guys up, which they are not going to do. This just seems like a way to, I don't know, get our biggest stars involved in the Intercontinental title picture, I guess. I'm not real sure. What did you think, Ryan?
I gotta say, going into the match, even though they're on the same faction, I thought that we were going to have a hell of a match. Triple H and X-Pac, both of these guys put on good shows, and you know that at this point they're training together every day. And when the action was happening, it was pretty good, but it was short-lived, and I don't understand, like you, what they're trying to accomplish with this match.
With two baby faces, too.
Yeah, two baby faces from the same faction. And again, as you stated, we know they're not going to be breaking up here. So what's the point of this? The thing I like the most of it is at the end when X-Pac and Triple H, well, X-Pac mostly is pushing Triple H, saying like, what the fuck, did you tell China to do that? We're on the same team here. JR says this relationship is going to need some rehabilitation. And I like that line out of JR. Yeah. But the actual match and how it's playing out is a real head scratcher.
Yeah, it's weird, but I guess Triple H is the number one contender now for the Intercontinental title, which we just saw a match between him and The Rock at Fully Loaded, so it looks like we're going to get another one between the two of them at SummerSlam.
Hopefully we end up with a normal match between the two, finally.
Yeah, we'll see if they slap any gimmicks on that.
Yeah, I guess we heard that it might be a ladder match, right?
Yeah, well, that's the source of
Meltzer.
That. Yeah. Could be complete bullshit.
That at least wouldn't be bad. I wouldn't hate if it was a ladder match.
Well, we come back from commercial after that match to a smooth, creepy saxophone, and we are on our way to our next match. Val Venis and Taka Michinoku versus Togo and Funaki of Kai En Tai ends in a no contest in 2 minutes. JR tells us that we are in Ryan Leaf country. For those of you who don't remember Ryan Leaf, he was drafted by the San Diego Chargers, number 1 overall, I believe, in 98, and was just a complete bust of a pick. So I thought that was a pretty funny callback there. Taka attacks Val right away, like I said, 2 minutes. So Taka already turns on Val Venis. This was certainly not as impressive as Tatanka's heel turn, that's for sure.
No, the greatest heel turn in history.
But yeah, Taka attacks Val, and the teenage Mrs. Yamaguchi-san looks very concerned. And Taka is yelling, "My sister," claiming that Yamaguchi-san's wife is his sister. Taka and Kai En Tai attack Val Venis, and then they drag him away, and boy, this could only mean one thing. And it's not good for Val. I believe they might choppy his pee-pee. Ryan, what did you think of this 2 minute match that ended in a no contest?
Well, the match itself was pretty much non-existent. We didn't really have a match here. I was glad, though, that they reminded us that Taka is the light heavyweight champion, because when was the fucking last time he defended this? It seemed like a year ago. Yeah. I'm also glad they showed a replay of Yamaguchi-san threatening the choppy or pee-pee from last week, just in case anyone missed that. As I stated last week that I remembered exactly where this is going, this was what I remembered. I didn't know it was going to happen this week, but I knew it was happening really soon, where we were going to learn that Mrs. Yamaguchi-san is Tataka's sister, and now Taka is a member of Kai En Tai. Who cares that he's part of Kai En Tai? But looking into the future, everyone knew he had to join Kai En Tai at some point, or that tag team was never going to happen.
Yeah.
There's really nothing to comment about the match, but this story has been entertaining. So I want to see where it goes. So them dragging him out, you're wondering, are we going to get any more updates this week? Because I want to see, is the big Valboski going to make it out of here with his member intact?
Right. Or will we see the Valboski land on the floor? I don't know. I guess maybe we'll find out. Who knows? But yeah, Taka, nobody gave a shit about Taka really leading up to this. So whatever, you got to do something different with him. You didn't want to wait, or you didn't want to build up to it. That's fine. It's probably not going to hurt anything
no,
to do this, and maybe even having him join Kai En Tai will give them a little bit more heat, because this Kai En Tai team, again, nobody really gave a shit about them either. They're not getting the crowd reaction. They're not getting the boos that I think the WWF wants them to get. So we'll see where this goes. But after this match, we cut to a commercial for 6 Stomp 2 underwater WWF action figures, and I don't remember these at all.
No.
They look terrible. They look like some shitty Aquaman figures, but they're wrestlers, right?
Special Operation Tactical Force something.
Just terrible.
And the headbangers were 2 of them? Like, the fucking headbangers? Where the fuck have they even been?
Absolutely horrible looking figures. Man, maybe they're easy to find because they're so terrible, but maybe not, because nobody probably bought these at all back then. So
they
probably
might be
pretty
rare.
limited.
They're buried in the desert with the E.T. Atari games.
Probably. And that takes us to our next match. Dan Severn defeats D'Lo Brown by disqualification in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And this match was for the European Championship, so D'Lo does retain since he lost by disqualification here. They showed us highlights from Sunday Night Heat showing D'Lo defeating Ken Shamrock by pissing off Dan Severn and getting himself ejected. D'Lo... now he grabs a microphone and announces that he is wrestling this match under protest because many of the people from San Diego are not card-carrying American citizens. Boy, that is interesting to hear nowadays.
Yeah.
So the match starts out, and Nation member Mark Henry eventually makes his way down to ringside, and now Steve Blackman makes his way down to ringside. JR tells us that Steve Blackman is good friends with Dan Severn. Now Shamrock comes down, and he roid rages on D'Lo Brown and Mark Henry, and again, we just get more taint tickling of Dan Severn versus Ken Shamrock. Edge attacks D'Lo Brown at the top of the ramp out of nowhere.
For some fucking reason.
I did laugh, though, because D'Lo gets up and looks pretty shaken up and asks Mark Henry what happened, to which Mark Henry replied, "I don't know, shit." The camera definitely caught, which I thought was fantastic. Ryan, what'd you think of this 2 minutes and 30 seconds match?
Probably the most disappointed I've been in a D'Lo Brown match that I've seen. Bartlett would have been thrilled. Dan Severn came out in his fucking gray shirt, ready for action. But I really don't understand why Dan Severn, who is a legitimate badass fighter, looks so fucking bad in the ring.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just very mechanical. Everything he does, even his suplexes were not coming off clean. I would think this guy would be able to pull that shit off, but he can't. It ends in a clusterfuck. We just get everyone coming out here. Blackman, Henry, Ken Shamrock, and then to top it off, the Enigma, Edge, out of nowhere. A whole bunch of moving parts that I'm not sure even really go together here. I think they're trying to mash together multiple storylines, and it left for another forgettable segment, which is unfortunately becoming a running theme tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole Dan Severn thing is pretty baffling.
Yeah.
This guy was
unless you're Bartlett.
Yeah. This guy was a successful shoot fighter.
Yeah.
He worked in Smoky Mountain Wrestling too. Like he was a professional wrestler before WWF, and he just doesn't look dangerous.
No.
Ken Shamrock came in and he was billed as the world's most dangerous man, and he looks and acts dangerous. He carries himself like someone who is very dangerous, and Dan Severn just does not. He's just not coming across as the Beast, as they call him.
And as we've mentioned before, Shamrock struggles on the mic, as does Dan Severn, but Shamrock makes up for it with his intensity in the ring. So Dan Severn just got nothing going on for him as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, for sure. And Shamrock has built upon that by doing his snapping gimmick now. Like he has built on that reputation that he has, and it's working. It's realistic.
Speaking of Bartlett's favorites, Tiger Ali Singh.
Before that, though, we go backstage to Kai En Tai attacking Val Venis in a locker room, and this can only mean one thing, and let's pretend it never happened for now. We'll see what happens later.
Maybe he'll get away.
You hate to see someone get their pee-pee choppy-choppied.
Yeah, especially a porn star. That's his livelihood.
Exactly. That's how he makes all of his money, so he won't be getting extra cheese on his Whopper if they chop his penis off. But we do go back to the ring, and Tiger Ali Singh makes his way to the ring. We see highlights of an American woman eating dog food for $500 from Tiger Ali Singh on Sunday Night Heat. Tiger then proposes to the women for every piece of garment that they remove, he will pay them $500, to which a middle-aged, heavy-set woman enters the ring from the crowd. Oh, God. I need to collect myself here.
This is not a Sable segment.
Yeah, it's not. And you know what's funny is Tiger Ali Singh, he does the whole, it doesn't matter what your name is to this woman. And I thought to myself, holy shit, did The Rock steal that from Tiger Ali Singh? I don't know if you noticed that.
I didn't. That's a nice catch.
Yeah, she started saying her name, or he asked her what her name was, and he said, it doesn't matter what your name is. Cut her off. Which, I don't know. Maybe The Rock owes Tiger Ali Singh some money. Who knows? But this woman proceeds to take off her top and then her skirt that she had on, and she starts to take off her bra, and Tiger Ali Singh stops her and says that he will pay her to put her clothes back on, and says, this is what your American women have come to. They'll degrade themselves for anything, all for $1. We then cut to moments ago when Kai En Tai was dragging Val Venis to the chopping block. My God, my God, I hope that he stays intact. We'll see what happens. It's got me on the edge of my seat, I will say that. Ryan, what do you think about Val Venis getting dragged into the locker room and then to the butcher's block, and then this Tiger Ali Singh segment just out of nowhere, Crash TV as they call it, Vince Russo booked angle?
Yeah, the angle's something right out of Howard Stern, basically. First, with Val, I don't know what to expect, but they drag Val Venis's limp body into this room with a chopping block, and Yamaguchi-san picks up the katana, so things are not looking too good for Val there. I'm a little scared for him. As far as Ali Singh's segment here, it reminded me of a mashup between Rick Rude and the $1 Million Man. It was like, if you mix those two characters together, that's kind of what he was doing here. The best line here, I thought, was from the King, though, when the heavy-set middle-aged woman starts taking off her clothes. The King says, I would rather pass a kidney stone than see her naked.
Oh, man.
So maybe that whole segment was worth it just for that, but I don't think we're going to see too much of Tiger Ali Singh moving forward. We might see this once or twice more, but I don't think it's going to be a very long-lived thing.
I doubt it as well. That takes us to our last match of the night. Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Undertaker defeat The Rock and Owen Hart to retain the Tag Team Championship in 11 minutes and 13 seconds. Fairly long match for Raw, especially a main event, because usually at the end of the show there is shenanigans during the main event, and they typically don't last 11 minutes, which doesn't seem long, but pretty long for a Raw main event. And the action starts with The Undertaker and Owen Hart. The Undertaker is in there for a while to start things off, and I thought they were setting up for a hot tag for Austin, but that's not what happened here. It was just a regular old tag to Steve Austin. I gotta say, the first half of this match wasn't really that exciting to me. Basically was just Owen Hart and The Rock holding the advantage through most of it. The Rock did get a bloody nose at some point. I'm not sure how that happened, but he was bleeding. Business picked up when Austin started striking The Rock, but then we got my favorite move, the double clothesline. They were laying there for a while, killing time. The hot tag actually ended up being The Undertaker getting the tag. Undertaker eventually hits the tombstone on Owen Hart and gets the win, while Austin and The Rock are fighting outside. And sure enough, Mankind comes in to attack The Undertaker, takes a chair shot from Kane, and then takes another one from The Undertaker. So The Undertaker chose not to strike Kane, even though Kane appeared to want to strike The Undertaker and accidentally hit Mankind. Cahoots.
That's right. No other reason that would happen other than cahoots.
Cahoots. That's what they want us to think here. The New Age Outlaws eventually come in, and this just basically turns into gang warfare type of deal. And we then cut to a blurred out scene of Val Venis having his penis cut off with a samurai sword, and we fade to black. So it seems as though the big story here headed into next week is going to be
castration.
Castration, but also why did The Undertaker choose to hit Mankind with that chair and not Kane? So again, even though I'm not really into this whole Undertaker cahoots storyline, it does make you want to tune in next week to see how they follow up on that. And also they just snuck in the fact that some guy got castrated on live TV. Just snuck that in there. Ryan, what did you think of this main event?
I agree with you. The beginning of this match was a little bit slow, but despite that, I still think this is a hell of a way to end a Raw, just like last week. You're letting the crowd go home on 4 of your biggest stars that you got at the company, putting on a over 10-minute match for you. That's a hell of a main event for both the live audience and the home audience watching. So I thought that was a good idea on their part. I also like, as I mentioned earlier in the night, that I like that The Undertaker and Stone Cold appear to be on the same page now. They're tagging in and out each other instead of the last time we saw The Undertaker kind of standing there not taking the tag. So they're working together a little bit better. And I'm going to mention this every time it happens. JR busted out Blue Chipper for The Rock. That's always great to hear. I always love that. But probably my favorite part of the whole match was Owen Hart had Austin in the sleeper, and the ref does the 1, 2, 3 arm count. But on number 3, Austin, instead of just raising his hand, raises the middle finger, and the crowd just fucking pops for it. And so did I. That was perfect, in character, just a great moment. And then Undertaker gets the hot tag, come in, lands a tombstone, and Undertaker and Stone Cold retain the belts. But we do leave on the cahoots storyline because The Undertaker didn't just hit Mankind with the chair. He looked at Kane, waited a few moments, then turned and hit Mankind. So it's pretty hard to say that he hit Mankind because he was the first there or that was the guy that was about ready to attack him. So it was very clearly a conscious effort on The Undertaker's part to hit Mankind. So now we're right back into the cahoots conspiracy as we lead into next week. So again, Joe, I agree the storyline isn't all that great, but they got me a little bit wondering as to where things are going. And as far as the match goes and the way things ended, a good match, a hell of a match. But that isn't how we actually end the show. We end the show with Val strung up by his arms to the roof. They blur out the fact that his cock is laid upon the butcher block, and then we fade to black and hear the chopping of a katana. Jesus fucking Christ. Talk about lewd.
Yeah.
This is peak Attitude Era right here.
They followed up what they said they were going to do.
Yeah, they did. They're not liars.
Do you think that it's too soon to have Undertaker and Kane in cahoots? Because think about all of that build-up to Kane and the Undertaker. You know, remember when Undertaker did not want to fight his brother? I don't want to fight my brother. I don't want to fight my brother.
We're approaching a year on that now, right? Because that was last October.
Kane and Paul Bearer did all those heinous things, and Undertaker finally decided at
digged up the parents.
Yeah, WrestleMania, I'm going to fight my brother, which was in, March, April, not that long ago.
Yeah.
And here we are now building up cahoots. And I think it's a little too soon.
Yeah, I could agree with that it's a little too soon, but I still stand by that if they were going to really lead up to SummerSlam, though, they probably should have done it even at the last pay-per-view so that we could have a proper heel Undertaker building up to SummerSlam with Stone Cold, because I think it just makes for a better story.
Yeah.
But in the logical sense of things, yeah, it's a little too soon for him to be completely forgetting about him tombstoning him on his mother's grave.
Right. Yeah, well, like we said, Val Venis had his penis cut off and we faded to black. So let's go to highlights and lowlights. Ryan, take it away.
My highlight is going to be exactly the same as last week in the final main event. You know, you had 4 giant superstars who put on a good match and hell of a way to end Raw. I thought that's a winning combination, all these people. So that was my highlight. And my low light is really the rest of this Raw, maybe outside of the choppy storyline. Like, that was the one other thing in this entire episode that I was paying attention to, and we got multiple segments of it. But other than that, I have to go with the rest of this episode because it was a clusterfuck.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, my highlight was similar to yours, not necessarily the match, but I liked the setup at the beginning of the show. I think that they set it up really well, that main event. And also, we have this new show that just debuted last night, Sunday Night Heat, and we're letting you know it's worth watching because we had this number 1 contender match, which led us to our main event on Raw the next day. So I thought the beginning of the show was just very well set up. So that's my highlight. My low light is Scorpio not choosing the hose. I thought that was a very stupid decision.
Especially the short-haired one.
Yeah, and he paid for it.
He did.
Well, that's going to take us to our news around August 3rd, 1998. So reporting here from the Wrestling Observer, Dave Meltzer lets us know that Sonny appeared at ECW's Heatwave pay-per-view event. We have not seen Sonny since, June, I believe.
Yeah, poor Sonny.
Meltzer said it looked like she hadn't slept in days, and he is claiming that she was given an ultimatum by WWF on June 26th to either undergo and complete treatment for her substance abuse problem or be terminated. I guess it's quite obvious that she did not complete treatment. So she is now in ECW with Chris Candido. Speaking of more substance abuse problems, Scott Hall was arrested on July 30th in Louisiana on a misdemeanor simple battery and disturbing the peace by intoxication charge. A 56-year-old woman told police that while she was in her car outside of a Radisson hotel, she saw Scott Hall standing near her car door. She claimed that she rolled the window down to speak with him, and Hall allegedly reached into her car, grabbed her breast, and pulled her hand up near his crotch.
Ooh.
So that is not what you want in the newspapers. The ratings winning streak is now 9 of the last 10 weeks for WWF, so they continue to win in the ratings Monday Night Wars against WCW. Speaking of WCW, Steven Regal suffered a broken ankle, so he is not expected to return to the WWF for 2 months. I think he was working some house shows for WWF, but he's going to need some time off now. Speaking of someone who is getting some time off, Brian Lee, otherwise known as Chains, he was fired by WWF, so we don't have to worry about him anymore. I think I reported a few weeks ago that he was arrested, so he's now fired. They are renaming a street in Lowell, Massachusetts to Stone Cold Way. I think that is in preparation for SummerSlam, which I believe is in Boston.
Is it still Stone Cold Way?
I don't know. That's a good question. Speaking of Stone Cold Steve Austin, he has taped an episode of the show VIP, which stars Pamela Anderson. So he must have been in an episode of that show back in 1998.
I remember when he was on Nash Bridges. That's what I remember.
Oh, wow.
You remember that show?
Yeah. A New York Daily News columnist ripped the WWF for their bikini contest and referred to Sable as the, quote, house slut. Pretty harsh words there from the New York Daily News. And that is all this week. Like you said, there wasn't really a ton of highlights in this episode of Raw. Hopefully we'll pick up next week. We are going to be recapping the Raw that aired on August 10th, 1998, with matches featuring Vader, Bradshaw, and many more. So if you want to reach out to us, you can email us at wrestlingraw@gmail.com. You can find us on all social media, Facebook, Instagram. If you follow us and listen to us on YouTube, please find us on your podcast platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Subscribe to our show. Do whatever you can to give us that push.
Just talk us up in any way.
Talk us up. And that is all for this week. So for Jason and Ryan, I am Joe, and this has been Wrestling Raw.